He sits down. As he sits down in the corner, Ben Davidson got control and blew down his earhole. As he sits down in the corner, Ben Davidson got control and blew down his earhole.
And what about your own corner pulling you out? You have no issues with that?
As a fighter, I wanted to go on and, you know, I sat down. I could hear Ben obviously telling me in the corner it was over. Like, before I even sit down, I could hear Ben obviously telling me in the corner it was over. Like, before I even sit down, I could hear Ben obviously telling me in the corner it was over. Like, before I even sit down, I'm shaking my head like, so like, no way.
And what about your own corner pulling you out? You have no issues with that?
As a fighter, I wanted to go on and, you know, I sat down. I could hear Ben obviously telling me in the corner it was over. Like, before I even sit down, I could hear Ben obviously telling me in the corner it was over. Like, before I even sit down, I could hear Ben obviously telling me in the corner it was over. Like, before I even sit down, I'm shaking my head like, so like, no way.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there, Joe Saunders let slip what the YB informed you, man, weeks ago. Again, there's a whole bag of dons right now who are sick of what the YB told them. And you, man, you know what time it is. Do I have to even remind you, man, what time it is right now for certain man? On your knees. Yeah. Say Dr. YB's in session right now. Open wide. No doubt. What did I tell you, man? I put a video out bringing to you, man, allegations that the MTK Shilaloa Cartel had been fixing a fight. And no one wanted to listen. Oh, YB, what evidence have you got? And oh, YB, you haven't spoken to... I told you, man, listen. There was suspect amounts of money flowing at the end of that round 8, no doubt. There was a whole heap of money flowing on in the end play betting. I spoke to one of my gambling dons. Yeah? I spoke to one of my bookmaker dons and they told me, listen, YB, there was suspicious amounts of capital flowing in on the in-play market at the end of the 8th round. Yeah? I put 2 and 2 together. Something didn't feel right to me. But I thought, you know what? As with everything in life, yes, the YB can bring you, man, the links, load the leaks through his links. Yes, the YB can bring you, man, the leaks through his links, no doubt, as I did. I told you, man, listen, that's the problem. In a way, yeah, I shoot myself in the foot because I bring you, man, people put, you know what this YouTube game's like, full of goofies. You got all the goofy people who read out news articles. The YB don't read no news articles out. I am the news. I make the news. Yeah, I got the links. They call me YB Leaks. Yeah, they call me YB Leaks right now. Wiki YB. That's what they call me. Wiki YB Leaks. No doubt. Because you best believe all the news. Show me a time you heard the YB reading a news article out. Sent one of them ones. Sent no countercut thing. This ain't no countercut thing. This is leaks. And I told you, man, listen. At the time I said, I'm hearing there's a possibility El Trapahan and the Shilaloa Cartel, MTK Shilaloa Cartel, put the word in and told Billy to stay down on his bricktop ting. Billy, stay down. At the end of round 8. And what do we know? And I said to you, man, listen, everything comes out in the end. People slip up. People don't know how to keep the lie going. Because you're not dealing with, unfortunately, you're not dealing with hardened criminals. We know that Joe Saunders likes to prance around the place like he's a gangster, but he's not a gangster. Because if he was, he'd know the things to say. He ain't, he's sloppy. And that's why he got caught lacking. Now, I'm sure there's some low IQ dons out there who are confused. YB, what are you on about? How does this video clip prove that Billy was told to stay down by the Shilaloa Cartel? Well, what did I tell you? I told you, man, weeks ago, that I've been told from people close, from one of my informants within the MTK Shilaloa Cartel, within Joe Saunders' team, that Ben Davidson was receiving messages from one of these encrypted text messaging services during the fight from El Trapahan, from a Shiloh Cartel representative. That's what I was told, and that's what I told you, man. I was told on the night of Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo Alvarez, Ben Davidson was in receipt of live text messages from a leading member within the MTK Shiloh Cartel. That's what I told you, man. And I was told again, at the end of the 8th round, Ben received a text which said, tell Billy to stay down. Yeah? Tell Billy to stay down. And what do we know? The text came in. And Billy did, well, all we know is Billy didn't make out to the 9th. But before we go in, I'm hoping most of you, man, can put 2 and 2 together here before I have to spell it out to you. But before I spell it out to you, man, I want to talk about someone else as well, because another key factor here, which I'm going to cover in more detail in a separate video, but just quickly, let me put some more links together. All the people out there who say, oh, YB, no, it wasn't. Billy wasn't told to stay down. What do we know? Did you not find it odd? Why was Ben Davidson flown in 24 hours before? Who has the... Because, for example, yeah, they want us to believe, oh, YB, it was Billy. Billy flew him in on 24 hours notice. Does that really make sense to you? Doesn't make much sense to me. What's the purpose? You've got... It's not like you had some randomer. Oh, well, you know what, Billy... Like, for example, what do we know? When Tyson Fury was training with Ben Davidson, what did Tyson Fury do? Tyson Fury flew in Freddie Roach. But the difference is, Mark Tibbs isn't... Mark Tibbs is the one with experience, if that makes sense. The reason Freddie Roach was flown in because Tyson Fury wanted someone with more experience in the camp, innit? But Mark Tibbs is already the Freddie Roach. So I don't care what no one says. You man can believe it. You man, if you man want to believe the Shiloh Cartel covering their tracks. Oh yeah, we flew Ben Davidson in because he wanted a second opinion. Huh, what? When have you ever heard of that? Again, truth, yeah. Actual things in real life make sense. Flying Ben Davidson in on 24 hours notice. Someone with less experience. Someone with actually no experience. Ben Davidson actually has no experience in a big fight, leading a corner on his own. He hasn't had that, because the time he was with Tyson Fury, Freddie Roach was there to hold his hand and give him the correct advice. Believe it or not, Freddie Roach was the one who actually enabled Fury to win that first fight. Because under Ben Davidson's advice, Ben Davison was about to throw the towel in. I kid you not. Ben Davison in that Tyson Fury fight was just about to throw the towel in. And Freddie Roach told him no, and that's when Tyson Fury got up and got stuck in. Freddie Roach told Fury, get stuck in on Wilder. And that was his best round. Ben Davison was about to pull him out. So anyway, my point is, why would Billy Joe Saunders, who spent his whole camp with Mark Tibbs, suddenly want Ben Davidson in his corner? I put to you, from my sources and from what I'm hearing, he didn't. Had nothing to do with Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders was told by a top MTK Shiloh Cartel executive, Billy, Ben's coming in. Say nothing. Yeah? Ben's coming in, and if anyone asks, he's there to support you. But obviously, people like YB, it doesn't make no sense. No one can tell me anything about how you fly in, and that's another thing as well. Even from poor Ben Davison's point of view, yeah, why would Ben Davidson? And many people have been asking these questions, but when you put it all together, why would Ben Davidson leave his top fighter, Josh Taylor, someone who he's only really just built a relationship with? Why was he leaving him a week or two before he had his big fight? It doesn't make sense. Number one, why is Billy Joe Saunders interrupting the harmony within his camp? We've already heard from Mark Tibbs how it disrupted the harmony. So why would Billy Joe Saunders risk the harmony in his camp? And number two, why would... In fact, everyone really. Why would Mark Tibbs allow it? Why would Mark Tibbs allow a young trainer with no experience suddenly to be all in the video? So that doesn't make sense. Why would Billy Joe Saunders interrupt the harmony? Doesn't make sense. Why would Ben Davison leave his environment with his new fighter? All of these things don't make sense unless we understand the wider picture here. Who's calling the shots? Who has that kind of power? Who has the power to just touch people like that and tell them, listen, this is what's happening. Because this isn't, like I said, things that naturally make sense, they make sense. You don't have the three most important people in this equation yet, Billy Joe Saunders, Mark Tibbs, and Ben Davison. This whole thing, none of it benefits any of them, really. All it does is create confusion. It creates confusion for Mark. Wait, am I in control or not? And it wasn't like, fair enough, well, YB, you know, Billy Joe Saunders was in the camp. Oh, sorry, Ben Davison was in the camp for 8 weeks and they were doing a joint. We've seen that before. We've seen before where you have 2 trainers from the jump. That's one thing. Where you're able to build a strategy for 8 weeks with 2 trainers. That makes sense. I've never heard of it. 8 weeks, you spend 3 months with Mark Tibbs and then 2 days before, some randomer gets flown in. And I put to you, it had nothing to do with the actual fight. Ben Davison was flown in as a key intermediary. Bear in mind, Mark Tibbs wouldn't play that role. Mark Tibbs isn't under the MTK Shilaloa cartel in that sense. Yes, Mark Tibbs will kind of keep his head down and whatnot and not rock the boat. Because he's used to, be fair to Mark Tibbs, he's used to moving in them circles, if that makes sense. He's used to moving into them, I always put it this way, Mark Tibbs is used to moving in them organised circles. He's from London and whatnot. I'm not going to spell it out for you, man, but trust me, Mark Tibbs, he's not like a, what's the word, he's not a ponce where he's, you know what I'm saying, if he has to keep his head down and Mark Tibbs has to mind his business, he knows how to mind his business, if that makes sense, yeah? If I don't see it, if I don't hear it, one of them ones, you know what I'm saying, that's Mark Tibbs' role. That said, he's not a paid shill. So, Mark Tibbs weren't going to get no text message from someone and then wave the fight off. That's what Mark Tibbs weren't going to do. So, the executives, the Shilaloa Cartel executives, had to have someone in that corner who was able to influence the fight on a whim. Yeah, on their whim. Or they needed someone in that corner who was able to do their bidding for them. Billy's fighting. He can't have a phone out. Mark Tibbs isn't one of them ones. So who's left? There was no one there. Big fight, by the way. Big fight. Millions of dollars on the line here. Quick, easy millions to be made. By sending one text message at an opportunistic time. Ben Davison, I put to you, Ben Davison was flown in for that exact purpose. Ben Davison was flown in to receive, potentially, to be the intermediary of vital information. Now, it's not what people don't realise about these fixes these days, yeah, they're not done in a guaranteed way. It's too risky. Back in the day, yeah, it was done days before. Okay, you're going to take a dive on the 4th round. It doesn't work like that now. It's too much. It's too bait. They don't do it every time now, and that's why you need someone in there who can kind of do it on the jump of things. Because the more random it looks, the better. If you've set something up 5 days before, you can't play on the circumstances. The MTK executive sat there and saw an opportunity to pounce. Oh look, Billy's legs have got tired. Billy's been hit once. This will be a great time. We can get away with this. Oh yeah, Billy, stay down. And that's what I'm telling you, man. At the end of the 8th round, Ben Davison received a text message that told him, tell Billy to stay down. And what do we know? And now it's coming full circle now. The man who was flown in, which made no sense. The man who was flown in, which otherwise served no other purpose. If you don't believe what I'm telling you now, you explain to me the purpose of him disrupting everything that was going on, disrupting his own camp with Josh Taylor. No training would do that. I mean, even someone like can you imagine Virgil Hunter, yeah, going into his biggest fight with Andre Ward and leaving his corner a week before to go and do some other fight? Can you imagine that? And that was with Andre Ward, someone who's been with for 10 years. Ben Davison's been with Josh Taylor for about 6 months. So you're leaving and even Mark Tibbs said this, you're leaving your 6-month trainer, 6-month trained fighter to go and run over here and just... So is that what you man believe? You man believe that was the case? He was, oh, I'm just going to be loosey-goosey and fly around the place. I don't think so. Again, and Mark Tibbs even questioned that. He didn't, but he doesn't know the wider implications here, from what I'm hearing, from what I've seen, the evidence I've got. Because this whole thing of Ben flying in served no one, or served no one in the immediate vicinity. Who it did serve is the higher ups for their wider plan. And their wider plan was to rinse the in-game betting in round 8. How about that? And you've got to remember as well, even in these organised crime circles, a lot of the way, because obviously years ago there's a lot of gambling in organised crime, but over time there ended up being a lot of fixes, as we all know now. A lot of fights were fixed. So what a lot of these big gambling people started doing was they started betting on big, massive professional fights. Why? Because they're less riggable. Does that make sense? So rather than betting on some little small hall show where the gangsters could actually touch the fight and influence the fight, a lot of these big money dons, they say, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to put big bets with each other on the big fights, on the big football matches. Ones that we know that it's not likely it can be rigged. Now what happens, for all we know, yeah, El Trapahan with his gangster friends, they could have, I don't know, 50 million each on a fight, couldn't they? Oh, I'm gonna bet you 50 mil that Billy Ho Saunders ain't gonna jack tonight. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm putting to you. Little do they know. You know what I'm saying? One of them ones. When you can, if you've got an ability to influence a fight which otherwise appears to be uninfluenceable, you're laughing all the way to the bank. And that's what happened here, no doubt, because it don't make no sense no other way. And anyway, bringing us to today's video. I know I've gone a long way around getting to it, but it should be quite clear now. But bit out of Billy's own mouth. What did you hear him say? Billy Ho Saunders says, before I even sat down, Ben told me the fight was off. Oops. Oops. Now what then? So, someone explain that to me, please. And this is what happens, you see. When you're seeing things, I don't see things. When you man look at black and white and different colours, I see shapes. Yeah? I don't observe reality the same way as you man. The YB's too much IQ. He sees, you man see, I don't see that, I see shapes. Yeah? No doubt. And I smelt a rat on this one. Big smelly muffler rat this was. This rat, the rat I smelt with this one was bigger than the rat between Billy Ho Saunders' legs. No doubt. 100%. Yeah? And now Billy's at slip. Because Billy doesn't, because a lot of the times with these organisations, they don't tell everyone everything. Billy wouldn't even know himself. All he'd know is his own experience. Yeah? So all Billy knows is that he got back at the end of the 8th round and he was told by Ben to stay down. Yeah? The fight's over. Now, I'm sure there'll be goofy fans up there who want to argue. Oh, no! Listen, don't blame me. All I did was tell you 4 weeks before Billy told you. That's all I did. All I did was tell you 4 weeks before Billy's just told you there. Billy just told you. Ben told me before I got to the end of and it's another thing. If you disagree, yeah, explain to me what Billy's saying then. How can Ben know? How can Ben tell Billy the fight's off before Billy's even got back? For all Ben knows, yeah? For all Ben knows, Billy's gonna tell him, oh no, it's just a bruise, because I'm not being funny here. There's no way Ben could have known. And that's the thing, his eye wasn't even broken anyway, but let's say for example it was. How could Ben know from 20 metres away, in the thick of everything that's going on? It's not like, wow, well, YB, you know, Billy was getting smashed from pillar to post for the whole round. Billy got hit once in the 8th round, yeah, and the last 90 seconds, he didn't get hit again. So, how could Ben possibly know? How could Ben possibly be that certain at the end of the 8th round to tell Billy the fight's off before he's even talked to Billy? Billy said himself, I hadn't even sat down and Ben was telling me the fight's done. How is that possible? How? All that Ben would know at that point is, okay, Billy's been hit once in this round. At worst, Billy's been hit with one big shot in this round. By the way, Billy didn't go down. It's not like, well, YB, Billy barely made the count. He got hit once, was on his feet. He wasn't even rocked from that shot as well. Billy wasn't doing the chicken dance. He got hit once and that was it. So how can Ben all of a sudden tell Billy, yeah, that's it, you're done? Explain it to me. Since I know there'll be some dons out there haven't got no IQ, they can't. Explain it to me then. In what world is that a possibility? Without even all you've done is seen your fighter be hit once, haven't spoke to him, but you're telling him, yeah, you're done. The fight's over. Oops. That's what the answer to that is. That's a big oops. Yeah. So, like, once again, the YB's been vindicated right here. There was no injury. I've been vindicated all round. There was no injury. All the things I brought up have been 100% correct. There was no injury, and he stayed down at the end of the 8th round. Simple as that. Because unless you man can explain to me how Ben was able to tell Billy at the end of the 8th round, that's it. I'm calling the fight off. That you're done. And now it kind of makes sense as well, yeah. Why Mark Tibbs? Because after the fight, Ben Davison said to Mark, or Ben Davison was saying, "Oh yeah, it's irresponsible of Mark," but now we know even more so why Mark weren't never going to call the fight off. Because Mark was, and rightfully so, Mark was confused. Why is Mark going to call the fight off? All Billy's been done is been hit once. Don't make no sense. So Mark got bamboozled here. Mark not understanding the wider things of what's really going on. He don't know. All he knows is all of a sudden his fighter's doing all right, kind of thing. Yeah, he wasn't like dominating, but he was doing. He weren't murked, was he yet? Billy Saunders wasn't murked. That's all Ben. That's all Mark Tibbs knows. Billy Saunders isn't getting murked. He's been hit once. What am I going to call it off for? You've definitely got another round in you. That's the rational, logical reasoning. He's definitely got another round in him. Bare bones minimum. And you've got Ben Davison saying, no, it's off. And that's why, even though Mark Tibbs was the leader in the camp, that's why Ben Davison was the one to call it off. It's all adding up now. And then Ben Davison tried to guilt trip Mark Tibbs. Oh yeah. Ben Davison tried to guilt trip Mark Tibbs into making him feel bad, and then in the end, Mark Tibbs ended up saying, "Oh no, I was the one." Do you remember that? Mark Tibbs and Ben Davison got into a ruffle over who was the one to call the fight off, because Ben Davison basically implied that Mark Tibbs is a bad trainer for not calling it off. But what I reckon that there was kind of a psychological play. Ben Davison wanted Mark Tibbs to take responsibility for calling the fight off, because to kind of to take the spotlight off of him. Well, how is Ben Davison waving the flag when he hasn't even spoke to the fighter or seen him? And that's another thing. Mark Tibbs even said that he spoke to Billy, and Ben Davison was even I explained to you, man. Why was Ben Davison chewing his ear off like that? I've never seen that kind of airtight chewing off either. He was literally sucked into Billy's ear, and I reckon he told him, "Listen, Dan's put the word in. Stay down." Yeah, I reckon that's what it was, 100%. And that's why it's all adding up now. Another thing, what did we know? Another thing I reported on. There was no audio all of a sudden. Like, who has the ability to do that? I've never seen that before. I've never seen a corner, and that's the thing. Canelo's corner had audio. So what's going on there? How all of a sudden Billy Saunders' audio is wiped? Who's able to do that? But they've got Alvarez's. So Alvarez's corner is fine. Everyone can hear what they're saying. But the corner where you should be able to hear stuff, there's nothing. There's not even a bit of audio. Nah, I'm sorry. And even, you know what? Scrap all that. If you want to say that's speculation, so be it. What's not speculation is what your man Billy just said here. Ben told me before I even sat down, the fight's off. Yeah, so you man can put in your pipe and do what you want with it. I'm sure you loved it. I'm sure you want to dance around, and in fact, I can't wait to hear what you got to say. I can't wait to hear how you're going to explain that to me. How a trainer whose fighter hasn't been down, has been hit once, can tell him the fight's off. Before he even spoke to him. Billy said, before I'd even sat down, Ben told me, that's it, you're done. Billy slipped. Billy's slipped up here. Billy's let slip the game here. El Trapahan told him, you're staying down. Stay down, Billy, at the end of the 8th. On his brick top. It's as simple as that. No doubt.